Welcome, everyone. I'll call the meeting of the Water and Sewer Utility Committee meeting of Thursday, May the 9th to order. Can I have an approval of the agenda, please? Approved by Councillor
Mr.
Ramsey, second by Councillor Matar.
Mr. Chair,
Yep,
motion's on the floor for the agenda.
sure.
Could I add the third-party independent audit review on this agenda? Or did you have something else in mind?
Third party?
Could be that too, but I just wanted to put it on the agenda so that,
Yeah, we could. I
don't mind,
think
sir.
We're prepared to, the players in the meeting are not here, so that's why it's not on the agenda, right?
When you say the players, do you mean our staff or do you mean the contractor, subcontractor,
Both, yep.
and and
Contractors.
also the engineer overseeing it through Coles?
Yep.
So can we have a special meeting on that to look at it? Because it'd be good to find a resolution to it. I think we're both looking at doing something that we can go forward on.
Yep. Yes, the manager and I discussed it. We were trying to set it up for today, but the people in question were not available. So we'll either take a look at when they could both come in to talk to the committee and see where we're going down that road, right? So we'd like to both of them to be here, right, to answer the questions.
Right. And from those questions, we're looking at the subcontractor, the contractor, and our engineering inspector to address what was brought out in the resolution, the notice of motion. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, we'll probably try to get answers to everything, right? So, where we're at, when's the timeline to finish it, all the contract, all that stuff is gonna come out, so we just want everybody here rather than bits and pieces. So, like I said, we tried to get it ready for today and it couldn't come, everybody couldn't come, so we'll look at either a special meeting or the next meeting or council meeting or,
So just again, Mr. Chair, when I talk about this, and you and I have discussed this because we've been on this committee for 5 years.
Yeah.
The tender did open on July 3rd, 2019, and it was to be finished by substantial completion by December 20th of 2019. So I just want to make it clear, this has been going on for 5 years. I know some comments were made that it could be politically related. I want to make it clear there was no political interference.
I
And
never said.
and
Go ahead.
my family
Go ahead.
that worked on my campaigns want to make that very strong too, that I'm very focused on this issue. And the reason I'm focused on it, because I believe that it's a very important part of our infrastructure, just like roads, streets, parks, recreation, water and sewer. So just want to put that on the record, sir. Thank you.
I understand, and I understand the contract you had signed as the mayor, so, our committee, we didn't really see the contract, in depth, so maybe we should get a copy of that. Like I said, there's so many different pieces that are moving here. That's why we want everybody at the table to see about the timeline, to see where we're going. And, to insinuate it was politically motivated, that was a comment that I made because maybe everybody didn't know the person that was in question. It wasn't a political motivation type of comment. It was just who the person was, who the person was ahead of this company that's digging for us. So that's where it came from my mouth. So,
Well, just on a final point, Mr. Chair.
beg your pardon?
Just on a final point, Mr. Chair, again, I was elected to this office to serve the best interests of the city and the residents, and
No one questioned that.
I hold that, and I know you hold that true to your heart too, as a representative of Ward 6, but, and my family is part of that equation too, because just like your family, they worked on both of your campaign, my campaign was worked on with our family. So I just want to say, Mr. Chair, that the issue here in front of us has been labored for many years. You and I have been at this table, in this committee, trying to get a definitive conclusion to it. And all we do is we keep kicking it down we keep kicking this can down the road. Like, as you said during the public meeting or at the meeting this past month about it being 95, 97%, but the chart that Josh provided at the last meeting, it was 90%. And if we could I just want to leave this point, could you please provide the criterion that would show that this is how we came to 90% being completed? Could I just ask that? What criterion was used to determine that, sir?
Sure, and that's why we'd like to get the contractors in. But when you signed the contract with this gentleman,
Right.
Was all these questions, on the table?
No, it was an MOU to allow the work to proceed. What the subcontractor referred to at the meeting in January, where he said, I will not do anything unless the IRU is signed, that indefensible right of use. That's the next part of this contract, and that's a 25-year agreement that we'll sign over. And if you want to look at the cost benefits, I'll bring those out when we have that meeting with, again, the contractor, hopefully he'll be here, the subcontractor, and the inspecting engineer from Coles Associates. And I'd like to also invite our occupational health officer too about some of the situations that occurred. And you've received emails, Mr. Chair, on these unsafe conditions that have been going on for the last 5 years. So I'd like to have,
And we may as well throw in the legal lawyer too, right? He may as
Please.
well come.
Yeah.
Any questions? We'll get it all together.
yeah, good.
Let's get it all on the table and get the questions answered, right? And then we'll proceed from there. Everybody good with that?
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, so now are we still at number 2? We're down to number 3 now. Declarations of conflict of interest. Seeing any? None? Okay, now we'll go to any business arising from adoption of the previous draft minutes, April 11th, 2024. Moved by Councilor Ramsey, second by Councilor Mattar. Any business arising from those minutes?
I think, Mr. Chair, what I said was in reflection of those minutes. And again, meetings do take some time because of the content of the subjects we're talking about. So I think it's important that we flush it out completely instead of trying to proceed on a very fast track. So again, Mr. Chair, I don't have to repeat what I said. Thank you.
And what was that? What are you repeating what you said?
What was in the minutes from the last meeting where we talked about the third-party independent audit review, that I already stated what I wanted to provide in the adoption of the agenda. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we listened to it at the approval of the agenda, and now we're getting it again in the business arising from the minutes, right? So that's over now, or do you want?
I covered that in, yeah.
So
So
nothing else you
I
wanna
actually, no, I think we'll wait until that meeting and to expedite the meeting for the members of the
Great.
committee.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to, anybody else have anything you'd like to ask or say or wish for? We'll go to discussions and reports. 6A, the CPC digester maintenance. Josh McGinnis, the Assistant Utility Manager, will take that one, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So this one is for the pollution control plant digester maintenance. Currently, we're seeking approval for a change order to the digester maintenance contract. In 2023, the water and sewer utility had issued a tender for digester maintenance at the Charlottetown Pollution Control Plant. GFL Environmental was the sole and successful bidder. The submitted pricing was greater than what the utility had budgeted for that calendar year. The scope of work was reduced to maintenance of the primary digester only in order to stay within that allocated budget for 2023. Through discussions with the project consultant, CBCL, it was recommended to move forward with cleaning the secondary tank in 2024 as a change order to the original contract. GFL Environmental has agreed to hold their 2023 unit pricing and has had acceptable performance. Based upon the estimated quantities and scope of work a change order in the amount of $496,108.71 plus applicable taxes would be required to complete the maintenance of this secondary tank. The project was originally approved in 2023 annual capital budget, and additional funding was approved in the 2024 annual capital budget. So we're seeking approval for that change order.
Thank you for that report, Josh. Now, if I'm understanding, there's two tanks, like you said, last year, the big one was done. This is the secondary one that has to be done. And this is done every 7 years, did you say, Richard? So, okay, it's all approved in the budget. So you guys have any questions, concerns? Okay, moved by Mayor Brown, second by Councillor Ramsey. All right. Now, we got that one. We'll go down to the next one. Where are we at? The hourly backhoe rental. Josh is going to take that on again.
So this one is for our hourly backhoe hire rates. We're seeking approval to award this contract. So the water and sewer utility had issued an RFQ for hourly backhoe hire rates and had received 4 bids, low bid being from Lee McDonald Construction in the amount of $81.80 an hour, inclusive of vibratory plate tamper, plus applicable taxes. The bid submitted by Lee McDonald Construction met the RFQ specifications. This was approved in the annual operational budget, and that's what we're looking to proceed with.
Question, your chair.
Go ahead.
Just want to clarify, it does indicate that the low bid was Lee McDonald Construction, but the low bid was actually UCC Utility Services? Oh, sorry, okay, hourly, okay, tamper, yeah, for the 2 columns combined, okay. I see, sorry, good catch, thank you.
So just for clarification on that, was that in the contract? Did it ask for that? Two separate?
It did, yeah. That's the way it was how it was structured in the RFQ.
Okay. So the other people that don't have that hourly vibratory plate tamper, why would they apply?
So the way that those bids were submitted was that was an included rate. So they would basically had submitted that as a $0 extra.
Oh, okay,
Correct.
okay.
Oh, makes sense, okay.
Yeah, makes sense now.
I have a question. Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
I know it's probably a stupid question, but approximately how many hours would we be renting these contractors out on a yearly basis? I mean, just a rough estimate for my own satisfaction, like is it 100 hours, is it 300 hours? Or I know it all depends on the job, right? And, because we as a corporation do not have our own backhoe, I believe. Is that correct for sewer and water?
The utility does have a backhoe, and it would depend on the season, the nature of the work, at how many hours we would do annually. That is something I can dive into a little better and come back to committee with.
No, I was just wondering from my own personal thing, like if we're paying somebody like for 100 hours or 2 hours, Okay, thank you.
All right. Do you want to move that on? No more questions? Moved by Councilor Matart, second by Councilor Ramsey. Now we'll go down to the grass cutting utility. Josh is on the deck again. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is another RFQ. It's for grass cutting services. We're currently seeking to award this contract. The water and sewer utility had issued an RFQ for grass cutting services and had received 5 bids. Low bid was received from DNS Grass Cutting in the amount of $12,744 plus applicable taxes. And that is the contractor we're wishing to award to.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Ramsey, Councillor?
Oh, sorry, Josh. Why does, is this for around the fire hydrants and everything, Richard, or where is this grass, going? Because we have our own public works that cuts grass also, and I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, so it's at our sites, and some of them are outside city limits, the pollution control plant around our well field sites, our sewer lift stations, not so much around the fire hydrants.
Okay, thank you.
So this, I'll go to you
That's fine. No,
first,
no.
Justin, go
It was just
ahead.
an observation. I'm wondering with the RFQ that went out, we got a huge discrepancy between $12,000 to cut the grass and $71,000. Is there something that would have indicated to A and B yard maintenance that, for such a substantial bid on that? Okay, well, I don't know if that's the rationale, but.
I know the bid itself, there was quite a few places to cut, right? This is quite a low bid for that, for DNS. And have we worked with them before? So
We have.
They're a big company, and it's like, wow, how could you do it for that? But that's good on them. They must have it all. Yeah. No, that's terrific. Yeah. Moved by Councillor Matard, seconded by Councillor Ramsey. Thank you. Okay. So we'll go down to number 6D, CPCP UV lamp replacement. Josh is here again.
Earning my lunch today. So again, this is a pollution control plant, UV disinfection. We're here to seek approval to sole source replacement lamps for the pollution control plant UV ultraviolet system. So at the pollution control plant, we perform ultraviolet disinfection of treated effluent prior to discharging to harbor. The pollution control plant has a Trojan UV 3000 plus disinfection system. This requires 88 specialized UV lamps per channel, and the plant currently has 2 channels. The UV system is required to operate at a particular efficiency to maintain the required disinfection properties. The pollution control plant has attempted to substitute off-brand replacements in the past and has encountered several performance-related issues. The off-brand bulbs had a shorter lifespan, incompatible lamp sockets, which is basically just how the power system connects into the bulb, and it caused system ballast failures. In order to remain in compliance with our regulator, a fully operational UV system is a necessity for proper effluent disinfection. The UV lamps are replaced rotationally, half 1 year and half the second year. The quotation from Atlantic Purification Systems Limited is for 1/2 of the system lamps. APS is the maritime distributor for Trojan Technologies. The submitted quote was for $53,072.71 plus applicable taxes. And this is budgeted annually, so has been approved in the annual operational budget.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Questions, Councillor Matard?
Yeah, just on the sole source aspect, so I assume finance has approved, or this fits within the procurement bylaw for sole sourcing that amount to the chair?
Yeah, well, what we do is approve it and then it go to finance or up to council, right? So
So it's already been vetted through and that's fine? Okay,
it wouldn't have been vetted through finance yet.
no?
No. It's brought up through our committee and then passed on to finance.
To finance and then to
yeah,
council,
then to
okay.
council. Okay.
Will these be on the agenda for Tuesday's meeting? Yeah, I don't think these go back to finance.
Oh, they don't?
No, and the reason I say that, Mr. Chair, because the meeting is on Tuesday, the second.
You're not on.
Oh, yeah, we met yesterday.
Yeah, so the procurement.
Procurement part of it, again, is what we were discussing yesterday with the procurement bylaw, so I was going to ask the same question, but sole sourcing, I know it must be a limited field on who can provide this product.
Well, I had 2 parts to my question.
Oh, okay.
The first part was regarding the approval. from a sole source perspective through our procurement bylaw? And then second was, is it my understanding that APS is essentially the only provider that can, because it said the distributor for the Trojan Technologies, so it leads me to believe there isn't another company, which is fine. I mean, that's why a sole source would be enacted in this case. My two questions have been, well, one has been answered. I guess the second is, there seems to be now a little bit of debate or confusion as to whether or not finance approves the sole source of this.
Yeah, we usually met before, and then finance usually meets the last before council, but this
Okay.
month, or I guess we're gonna change that up. So that was my error. I thought it would go to finance, but obviously if we recommend it here, it'd go up to council, right?
Correct. So we had reached out to procurement prior to this to clarify on the process, and since it is a sole source, we're desiring to sole source, it would go through committee and council before we could proceed with that.
Yeah.
So it has gone through procurement, but whereas it is a sole source, it has to go through committee and council.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just on that, Mr. Chair, could I just ask Josh, so Josh, it's a very specific product. It does a specific job. And the lifeline of these products, is it a year, is it 2 years, do you replace them yearly? And we have a secondary process in our treatment of effluent, correct? We have a primary, secondary. I know in Summerside it's a tertiary, they go to third treatment. So is this part of the first, the primary, or the secondary treatment? Correct me if I'm wrong on how I put that out to you. Maybe Richard could answer too.
So this would be the final step of disinfection prior to releasing to harbor. So this is after it's gone through the complete treatment process, and this is to eliminate anything that may be remaining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor Ramsey?
Please, yes, thank you, Chair. The UV lamps are replaced rationally half 1 year and second half the next year. Could you sort of clarify that? Like, is only going to be half done this year and then we're back for another 53,000 for the next year, for the other half?
That is correct. So ideally, we do get 2 seasons or 2 years out of them. Occasionally, you do have a bulb failure, but that's accounted for in this. So we do seek to replace another half next year.
Perfect.
Treatment of effluent, it costs money. I move it, or you can get Councilor Carter.
Would you like to move it, Councilman Tart? Okay, Councilman Tart move it. Councilor Ramsey seconded. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, just before you move on, I just want to revisit the value for money audit discussion, just briefly.
No problem.
I think, I just want to be clear that I think we're requesting that we have a meeting with various stakeholders. Have we determined definitively who the stakeholders are that we would like to have? And I feel like I don't know who we're asking to come here. Today, a few other stakeholders were mentioned. Can we get it documented as to who we as a committee here are asking to come here, so that we have an expectation that they are coming or not coming, as opposed to we mentioned it here? So just using as an example, Williams Murphy McLeod, are we expecting someone from that contract to be here? That's just an example.
Definitely, yeah.
If there's others, can we note that here of the expectation that we're giving direction to the management team to invite this discussion with those stakeholders, so that we know who they are prior to coming here?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I had discussions with the manager, and he's well aware, but that's why we just threw a couple others in there today as well. Whether it's open part or closed part of the meeting, or legal representative on the contracts, things like that. So that would have to be, just to bring everybody up to it's coming close to the end, we'll just keep everybody informed of what's going on, right? Go ahead, I see all 3 lights on now. See,
I just want to,
go ahead.
I just wanted to
No,
follow up.
Follow up?
I guess in the sense of trying to determine whether it's an open discussion or a closed discussion. The closed discussion obviously would be if we were discussing legalities of the contract. Again, I'm not quite sure of what we're discussing, so I think I want it to be clear, and maybe you've already provided that. I just don't understand myself what the discussion is going to be and who will be there and if it's open or closed or whatever the case may be. So I just want to make sure that whatever we're doing, that we're very clear on what we're asking for. Maybe that's already been done, and I appreciate if you've done that already. I just don't know myself.
No problem. Would it be safe to say, Richard, that it would be open and closed? There's parts of it that should be closed, if we're dealing with the contract?
Yes, if we get into contract-specific discussions, then that would be in the closed session. But a lot of this could be open because the party that we are contracting with will be here. And the reason we'd have closed session discussions would be if we were discussing the contract, you don't want the other party to know what those discussions are.
Perfect. Is that clear? Yeah.
That's,
Okay.
that, Mr. Chair, that's the misunderstanding here. And I think that's what Councillor Tweelkeat's asking about the contract. A contract was signed. The other part of this is, that was to initiate a MOU between the two parties. The next part is what we were told was the IRU. That's when we went into the closed session. I don't want to get into the IRU. I want to get into what my resolution asked for, the notice of resolution. And it has to be completely open. The IRU, we know that the indefeasible right to use is a 25-year contract. I think he already told us, if we don't sign that, he's not going to continue the work. I want to have the session completely open, and I just want to see if we can determine a date today, if that's possible, to get that back to as soon as possible.
Well, I mean, you can't determine a date today because you got to see if the players will be able to come.
2 weeks, like just see if we can look at it sooner than later?
Well, I guess you'll have to, the manager will have to discuss when it's, when of all the people are allowed, or able to come. There's no sense saying we'll take it on the second Friday if they can't come, right? So, that'd be good. Richard will look after that, Richard, if you could, and line
Yes.
it up.
We'd look to have it within the next month.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anybody else have any questions?
No, just my question was asked by Councillor Turd, whether it's going to be open or closed, and that was explained right here. If it's a legal thing, it should be closed.
Yeah.
And everything else should be open. Okay, thank you.
Well, there's many questions. We're sitting here as the committee, that we would have. So some of that would be the part of the contract. The committee should be aware where we're going, or, give direction.
Mr. Chair? That's what I thought we flushed out at the last meeting, and then it flipped because we deferred it back to the committee. But I thought this was flushed out because we've discussed it so much. And I was told to bring forward a notice of motion, which I did, and I clearly laid out what I'm looking for. And that's, again, it was the cost of the service, but, with anyone, you can go back, if we have to go back to tender, and maybe narrow the scope of the tender. But again, if we're going to sign an IRU, we better make sure that we're allowed to do it under the MGA as a 25-year contract and all those other legal requirements.
That's why we'd have to have the legal aspect here. And going out to tender, you can't just say, let's go out to tender again. I mean, we have to get this stuff in place. We have to get our committee to know what's going on, and that takes open and closed session to see where we're at.
Yeah.
And then we're informed to make a decision.
Yeah. But just a point of
I know
order.
you had your notice of motion, and we've listened to that.
Yeah.
We understand. We're gonna get a meeting.
Yep.
Everybody's gonna be here, all the players are gonna ask questions. So that's where we're going. I mean,
Yeah.
we just don't want to beat this to death. It's in place, we're getting a meeting, all the players are gonna come in, and we're gonna get information. And then we'll look at your
Yeah,
notice of motion.
but we have beaten this to
here
pretty
is it.
much of a pulp, really. We've
you
been
pardon?
talking about it. We have beaten this to the,
We
almost.
understand that, your worship.
I know.
We understand that.
And I just want to say, Mr. Chair, is that this is something I picked up when I first arrived here. You were on the committee. I believe the deputy mayor was the chair. So again, it's defined resolution. And in terms of retendering, we retendered Beach Grove Bridge. We retendered Seaview Boulevard. So retendering is not an option that we have to throw out throw to the wayside. It's an option to retender. Anyways,
But
thank you.
before you start saying we're going to retender, let's get all the information here first, to get the committee aware, get everything dotted and crossed, and then we'll make a decision, right?
Well, we've been doing that for the last few years, getting the information. I picked up information, taking it back here, and I thought we were going on a path forward, but It was
The
stopped and
manager's been
now,
working on it.
yeah.
Assistant manager's working on it. CAO has been working on it. We're just gonna get this meeting in the next month or so, and we're gonna sit down and get all these questions answered. So make sure you have all your questions with you. And then
They'll be
you'll
the same
able to
questions.
answer
They'll be the same questions.
Same questions, okay. That'd be great. I
Mr.
mean,
Chair,
CAO, go ahead.
if I could. Just a point of clarity. So council deferred a decision on whether to approve the results of an RFP. So wherever this committee goes in terms of your conversations, it's to fulfill why council deferred that. So in order to come back with information to either approve staff's recommendation regarding that RFP or not. And
So
I
that-
don't know if that clarifies it for you or not. So previously, council made a decision to move forward on the notice of motion. There was a resolution to do that, and to create an RFP to go out. And we were at the point of deciding who to hire to do the work. And that's the decision that was deferred.
Yeah, so,
So just moving forward, just looking, as these discussions happen, that's where you are in the process, and that's all I'm clarifying for you.
so, yeah, we do, but council has deferred this, and I believe for more information. Once we get the information, we'll take it back to council, and then they can make the decision. Am I correct in that, or no?
Thank you. So the information you're looking for is, well, we never really clarified the information that night of exactly what we were looking for, but ultimately what it needs to be framed as, you put an RFP out on the streets, you had people who put in, consultants now, who are awaiting a decision of whether they were successful or not. And that's what council's decision ultimately was. If there's other stuff that needs to be discussed, that can go to council in various ways in terms of information. But at the same time, we do have this outstanding item that was deferred by council
Yeah.
for decision.
And I understand, but how are we supposed to make the decision? Like, there was numbers given out, 98.5%, 90%, all this was, how are you gonna make the decision? Do we wanna go out for the RFQ for that? If we're this close, if we're almost here, if the management and committee, everybody's satisfied? Or do we just do this and then go back, And that's why I asked for council, is defer it for more information. Then we can come back and say, listen, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't, right? That's the way I thought it was going to go, for more information, right?
So could I ask the CAO to clearly, the deferral was the deferral of accepting the tender price, correct? That was the deferral. Now, to get to that point, we spent 4 years to get to that point. I don't know what more information we're going to get that's going to get, it may change your opinions on whether we deferred or defeated, and we just go with business as usual, but it's the deferral on the tender. And there was one tender that was received, and that one tender specified, if you looked at the tender, we received the tender, the start date, the end date, what they're going to do. If we don't accept that, we don't accept that and take that back to council, correct? Am I wrong in asking that, Mr. Chair, of the CAO?
Councilor Matar, do you have
No.
something to add?
My understanding of the deferral, excuse me, my understanding of the deferral was based around a determination as to whether or not we felt the audit was necessary at the stage of being 90-some% complete. And if we were able to get further information on the outstanding items and where the finish line was, that might help council determine whether or not we needed to proceed with the value for audit RFP. So that's what I thought we were doing as the deferral, was to come back here to the committee to invite in the stakeholders to gather that information and other information to bring back to council to say, here's where we feel this project is, here's what's been done, here's what hasn't been done, here's what works, here's what doesn't work, I don't know, a whole bunch of things. And then it would be determined that we either need to continue with with your motion for a value audit, or we're satisfied with where it's at, and that is no longer needed, which would be unfortunate for the people, for the business that submitted to the RFP, I guess. I don't know if maybe that's probably a city practice that would happen many times when you don't fulfill the RFP. Am I wrong in my
No,
understanding of
and
that?
that's
I don't know.
100% what I agree with. You know, that's where we're at. And the people were invited here today but couldn't make it. That's, you know, we're not looking to change anything. That is exactly what I thought we were going to do. You know, come back, get the questions answered to see if we move forward.
Mr. Chair, we've had them here with we've had the players here before, when the deputy mayor was the former chair and then you took over chair. And then these are some of the facts: 90 to 98% complete reported by all parties over the last 4 years. In 2022, the department stated the project was nearly done. RU review meeting, that was 2 years ago. As-built drawings never produced for countless requests. I've asked, and we're going to be holding up a project at Terry Fox Drive and Brighton Road for the pathway because the province, the provincial manager wants to know where that line is. And they want as-built drawings and no project burden of proof reporting. Like, I've been asking this stuff, and we've been sitting around the table. Councillor Matart, as a new councillor, we've been discussing this information. So we can bring the players back in, but
Well,
again,
I think
I want to
I
make
can-
sure that, you know, we're going to sign off on something for 25 years.
To the chair, I can appreciate the concerns by the mayor.
Sure.
And for going on for a number of years. And I think we've all
Yeah,
acknowledge that and understand that. But despite that, we had the motion, and the reason why we deferred the motion was to finalize on that information. If we do not get that information in due time by the stakeholders involved that we're requesting to come here, we would go back to council and say, we've tried to get that information, and we've got no ground, so therefore.
Go ahead.
Hopefully, the decision would be to move forward with it. It still may be determined, based on the information we get, to
right.
move forward with it. But it
100%.
also may satisfy and say, I don't know, I'm just surmising what could potentially happen here. I realize you say we keep having them here, we've had them here. I think this sounds like the final.
Yeah.
It sounds like the final straw of, if they're not here to update and present, then we would be going back to council
Yep.
on that deferral to say, we couldn't get any more information.
couldn't get the answers.
Is that,
Yeah,
is that fair?
100%,
Okay.
yeah. Go ahead,
I
Ken.
will leave it at that. I opened this back up, and I'll leave it at that, so we can.
Thank you.
Thank you. Close
Thank
that.
you, it clarifies.
Yes, you
things.
did.
Appreciate it.
You really opened it up. You know, I've been sitting on sewer and water for years too in this project. My, like, for 4 or 5 years, like, there's other projects, like the fixed link didn't take 5 years to build. Or did, or close to it. But I'm just saying, like, there got to be closure in this thing somewhere along the line. And whether it's the contractors or us or something, if we're that close, like, there's something got to be done. But this should not be dragging on for something that should have been done in a year, your worship, as you stated. But now we're up to 4 and 5 years, like, and then they're holding us hostage, I guess, in certain things, saying, well, if we don't sign, we're not going to pay, or we're not going to hook it up. But, you know, there has to be something, it has to come to an end, I guess is what I'm saying.
And it's, the manager and I have had this discussion, and it is a good contract. You know, he's got faith that will come to completion. It'll be beneficial for the city, and that's what we're holding on. Within this month, if we don't get the answers, we'll do what, you know, the notice of motion and do it that way. Just exactly what you said, but this is the final time. So, you know, I know we can't. I know, but it's the end line that this is going to be a good deal for the city, and that's what we're hoping on. So, am I correct in that, your manager? Manager, Richard?
Correct. And that's what we'll do. I mean, it is a great time for us to have the meeting and flesh things out and move
Terrific.
forward.
So that's
aga-
what we'll do.
So again, Mr. Chair, again.
Okay.
I want to make sure the
No, that's your 2
report,
times. That's enough.
Report would include
we've
fiber
gave
installed, fiber
direction.
spliced.
We've gave direction.
Yeah.
We'll finish
It's
it
what I
all at the
already
meeting.
presented in my notice of motion. That's what I
understand.
want to see
That's where we're going to go.
addressed.
Yeah, we'll address
Thank
it.
you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Have a good
very much for
lunch.
your comments. Appreciate it. Any other questions under new business? I have just a question of new business, and it's something that I've been dealing with, and I've discussed it a year or so or more ago, about when you're applying for different permits. Can we get the city corporation, the water and sewer, to help with building permits, right? So if I go in for a building permit, then could it be shifted off to water and sewer? I know there's two corporations, but I just want to get us, I don't know how to get us to the table, that this would be a process that should happen. And when I talk to developers, anything to make it easier. I know in the budget process, are in a process of hiring more people. So somebody's got to look after this, because, I myself, I'm going in again today to pay my water fees for permits, right? So I should have done it before, but, I'm excited to get a building permit, and then all of a sudden I didn't get the water and sewer at the right time, so. Is there any way we can get this together?
That is one of the things that we will be working on this year so that we improve our development process. That includes making sure your permit and your water and sewer, we have money from the federal government to help with those processes. So that is something you'll see, hopefully, an improvement this year on.
Well, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much. Just ask the question. Oh. I would let Mayor Brown do it, but he got up and left. I can't understand, but oh well. Moved by Councilor Matart, second by Councilor Ramsey. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much for your time and effort, everyone. Appreciate it.